Hey guys, Sadaka here. Um, how do I start this? I've had over the years a lot of people talk to me about cleansing and eating and giving up food in particular. I call it living on chi since I'm mostly in the Taoist way, which if you're a Taoist is redundant because you know that the Tao means the way. Anyway, anyway, um, giving up food in a lot of ways, to me, has always been a rather stupid notion because people don't know what the heck they're doing. So there's this whole idea, and I'm not bashing, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like, you're not doing that right. Like, a lot of people that I know who have come to me like, oh yeah, I'm giving up food forever. I just need to live on the energy of the ascended masters, and I'm, just pulling this stuff in. I'm like, you have no idea. You have no idea how much real physical energy it takes to sustain a body. And there's this notion that by not eating, you're somehow going to be a clearer vessel for spirit, which in some ways is true. You're certainly going to feel things more. You're certainly going to feel more fresh and light and alive for a time. But if you don't really know how to take chi into the body and work with it and cultivate it and do the proper practices, which also involve breath retention, which involve um, keeping the saliva going, taking certain herbal formulas, and or, like, all kinds of stuff is around the science of giving up regular food. And there are many points that I would like to make along the way, not just the little things that you have to do in between to make sure that you don't go crazy and or starve yourself to death, uh, or that you just don't develop a problem through extreme weakness, or you don't develop a problem because just by giving stuff up, that's not the point. The point is to get away from relying on regular solid food to give you enough energy in order to sustain your body in a clear and healthy way. And the point beyond that, at least for the Taoists, was once you do that, and it's called bi gu, like giving up grains, they would call it that. Even though, yeah, the point beyond that is that the body essentially resets itself and completely just rejuvenates itself. The skin will begin to glow and have an oily, dewy, fresh appearance. Teeth can grow back. Your hair can grow back. White hair will turn black again if you're doing it right. You've all seen somebody who, like, we're like, dude, eat something. You've got this pale complexion. You're, a hardcore vegetarian, and basically that means you just don't eat, like, because you can't find any food and you don't cook. I know people like this, okay? I've seen them in my history, and I've been like, you are not healthy in any sense of the word. Like, I can see it just by looking at you, and yet they think, no, 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 lack, deprivation, asceticism, and suddenly I'm going to be more spiritual, and that's not how it works. Anyway, this is a really fabulous book, Taoist Dietics, Food for Immortality. And that's really what it comes from when you talk about the Taoists and they're talking about giving up normal food. And it's really interesting because I was talking to a friend recently about why garlic and onions are usually a bad idea, especially if you're doing a lot of energy work, a lot of meditation, a lot of, qigong and neigong and all the stuff that I'm always talking about. Even Reiki or the Akadua, if you're studying either of those or both or any other energy work method, your ability to sense, feel energy, and move energy is going to be severely limited by eating lots of garlic and onions. When you give everything up, everything can be used as medicine in a certain sense in order to keep chi flowing. See, that's one of the biggest things, is that when you stop eating, chi doesn't flow anymore. So it's a balance, and it's very difficult to get the proper understanding of it, to actually do it, to actually execute it, to actually make this a practice of yours, because on one level, Eating a bunch of food clogs everything up and doesn't allow qi to flow. On another level, that's where we all, as ordinary individuals, get most of our energy. We get most of our energy from food. So if you're going to stop that, it takes a very long time for your body to start processing energy from other places. If you're not doing all the energy work, it ain't going to happen. That's just, you know, you can't get it just from looking at the sun a little bit every day. That's not food, you know? Like, there's so much that needs to happen. Yeah. So I just want to, you know, put that stuff into the canon. People have been trying to do this and doing it successfully, apparently, for years and years and years. It's not this new concept of breatharianism, or you're living off of breath. That's really not it. You're living off of chi. And if you can put it that way, then you start to realize I'm not getting enough chi in order to sustain my system in a healthy, you know, spiritual way. You're not spiritual just because you're weak and light and you can feel all of these energies all around you all the time. If you don't know how to take them into your body, if you don't know how to drink chi, if you don't know how to move chi through your system and circulate it and store it in certain places, then you're just going to get sick, you know? So this is a great book if you're interested in Taoist Dietics. It's very straightforward. It goes through history. I've shown it to you before, but I don't think I ever really read anything from it. And just going back into it, I'm very, 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 very impressed by the fact that it's not just like, here's recipes for stuff, and here's different types of foods that you can eat as somebody who's trying to achieve, you know, the Taoist conception of immortality. I'm going to just start with some things in here. This is from the chapter Living on Qi. The ultimate and most advanced level of Taoist dietics is the complete avoidance of ordinary food while living on pure Qi, being upheld by spirit and transforming into an immortal. Already the Zhuangzi describes the wondrous man of Gusha Mountain. With skin like ice or snow, he is gentle and shy like a young girl. He does not eat the 5 grains, but sucks the wind, drinks the dew, climbs up on the clouds and mists, rides a flying dragon, and wanders beyond the 4 seas. I love that. The first technical manuals on how to stop ingesting ordinary food survive among the Ma Wangdui medical manuscripts, notably blah blah blah, which outlines scheduled procedures and describes how to use the herb Pyrosia for best effects. I'll get to some herbs and things later in just a minute. Commentary, blah blah blah, from the legendary Master on the River commentary on the Tao Te Ching, describes the 5 qi of the inner organs and emphasizes their connection to the spirit and material souls, or the yang and yin parts of the person. That would be the hun and po souls, which I've talked about before. The transformation into an immortal means the refinement and purification of the yin parts into increasingly yang patterns. So in the Taoist conception, of course, yin is usually negative and bad. Like, I don't want anybody to get any weird associations. A lot of the associations that have developed, and this is from, you know, the 1600s, so this is later stuff, and then in the medieval period, there's also commentary about how to do this stuff well, too. And by that time, like, really these cultural conceptions had been inserted into the concepts of yin and yang. Really, it wasn't until much later, after yin and yang became a thing, that they started to be associated with masculine and feminine, or masculinity and femininity, or males and females anyway. Now all of a sudden there's these ideas that pretty much everything yin is death, bad, destruction, descension, which makes sense. I mean, it doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean that female stuff is bad, just because you're saying yin stuff is typically bad. But usually when they're talking about yin spirits or whatever, they're talking about destructive spirits, destructive patterns. Yang typically means bright and good and healthy. So that's all that's going on here. I don't want anybody to get confused. The refinement and purification of the yin parts into increasingly yang patterns, moving from solid, earthbound energies. This will make sense to the New Agers. Moving from solid, earthbound energies to subtler, more spirit-oriented levels. Since there is ultimately only one qi, this is not a change in substance but in nature, a transfiguration toward finer energies that vibrate and oscillate at a much faster rate. Thought you guys would like that one, since I'm always talking about frequency and vibration and going, guys, it's not just the higher, faster ones that matter. Um, this is all pretty. So there's these other ideas. Basically, the macrocosm and the microcosm. Again, I have all of these lines of energy and store places of energy running through my body. They have their correspondences that actually my energy on a more cosmic level will connect to certain stars and planets and things like that. So the Taoists, who really, really, really purified themselves, started realizing that there were correspondences up there, and they started associating those heavenly bodies with types of spirits. So this is where it gets into the Taoist more spiritistic type stuff, where they believe that there's a spirit that sort of controls the spirit of the liver, and it has its higher aspect, and so you're also doing like devotions, and it's that more not mystical, but that more spiritistic, we would think of it almost like mediumship and stuff, and shamanism, that more shamanistic idea of I'm reaching out towards the heavens, and this being that sort of rules this star, and that star rules the liver, and I'm pulling that energy in and making sure that I'm okay with that spirit, so that it protects and preserves and nurtures my liver and all that kind of stuff. Which is a fabulous way to do all that kind of stuff, and it works, you know? It's totally fine. It's just that I don't want people to get confused that that is a Western style deity. This is not a God in the sense that, like, yes, like there's so much weird stuff when a Westerner says God. Like we constantly think, well, there can only be one. You know, it's that monotheistic stuff that gets in there, and that they you know, they exact, or they demand exacting worship and devotion, and they get angry and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, you're just doing positive energy, and that is a thought form, the purest and most perfect form or consciousness of your liver in an extended way, because we all understand on a certain level that we are connected to things way beyond just the earth and sun and moon and the immediate stars around us. There's another level beyond that. There's your soul body and all that kind of stuff. And if you want to do work with that, it's a totally great way to work. So there's all that kind of stuff, and they talk about the Hoon spirit and the Po spirit. Then it talks about the aspects of mind. It talks about what they called the worms or death bringers, and so there was those were the negative aspects that they personify. They basically personify these different aspects of energy and these processes that are happening, so that when you're eating regular food, there's all these bad things. You know, you have gas, and it's not just the gas that's the bad spirit. You know, like we laugh as Westerners when we hear that kind of stuff, and yet we say bless you when the person sneezes. You know, like that's the same freaking thing that happened. We used to think that it was this weird spirit that was inside of you, like, but now we have, ooh, we're so much more enlightened. It's just this collection of gases. And yet, by doing that, we divorce ourselves from the fact that basically most of the things that we eat are harming us just as much as they're nurturing us. And so when they looked at all these things, they personified the good things, they personified the bad things, and said, no, we need to banish these spirits. They found basically that eating grains was mostly bad, you know, and so that's why going grainless really meant just focusing on that which would only nurture and sustain your body, and allowing the body to do its own natural stuff. Now, a lot of the other stuff that the Taoists talk about, and it's in here, is breath work and work with the saliva. as the saliva becomes this healing substance that the body just naturally produces. Once everything is cleansed, it becomes super, super sweet, and you can actually taste it when it's really healthy and everything in your body is healthy and you've been purified. For me, it just happens with like one day of doing cleansing foods, and then I can start to taste that just like well up, and I'm like, oh my god, why do I ever eat anything besides my little cleansing mixture, you know? It was happening right now, and I ate regular food yesterday, and then I was regretting it today, and then I'm like, I think I just want to do the cleanse again, man. Like, it's so weird, because on one level, I'm the, eternal hedonist, and I'm like, wine, song, foods of all the richest meats, and all this stuff, and spread it out, and, all of that, and it's beautiful, and as long as you're around that energy, and it's people, and it's goodness, like, it's mostly healthy. But then when I'm in that situation, I'll eat very, very little. I find myself eating very little, because there's so much other stuff going on. And then on the other hand, I'm like, okay, I get it. I want to be young and beautiful forever. And so, let's cleanse. I only need to eat one thing. And then if you can, you basically don't have to worry about anything. Oh my god. When you are just doing a cleansing, like the oatmeal mixture that I'm doing, you don't have to worry about anything. You have all this time. I mean, for somebody who constantly only ever cooks at home, like I will go out a couple times, maybe once a week, if that, sometimes once every other week, and get food with friends out, and then I end up not eating half of it because I can feel the rest of the environmental chi, the ambient chi around me, and I'm like, and I end up not eating. It's weird. But I love pizza. Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. So they personified all the good things, all the bad things, the worms or the death bringers, the three death bringers, managerial positions. There's also this idea of accounting to heaven. So the death bringers, these spirits that are bad, will like report to the heavenly authorities that you've been eating bad stuff, and that feeds back into your like life karma. Basically, it's just a way of saying like over the long term, this gonna be bad for you, so stop eating all this crap. And they all have names, and it's really kind of cute. I lament the fact that I think of it as cute, because it actually is a system that's like, respectful, and we still just think that it's like weird. Dietary change. This is one that I wanted to read. Changing, because it's practical for anybody who wants to do this stuff. Changing the diet toward immortality takes place in a setting separate from ordinary society that is specially geared toward the divine effort. Predominantly an individual endeavor, the practice, even if undertaken under the guidance of a master, usually takes place in isolation, be it in the distant mountains, on the fringes of a monastic institution. Interesting. On the fringes of a monastic institution. Think about that. We typically think of monastic institutions as being on the fringe already, Or in the anonymity of the cities. Interesting, that one. This is a quote from Dignified Observances for Arranging Retreats. A Taoist adept distances and cuts himself off from human traces and lives quietly in the mountains. He practices a perpetual retreat and lives alone in a desolate valley. He no longer selects a master of the teaching as his preceptor, but simply makes his mind converse with his mouth. I freaking love that. Makes his mind converse with his mouth. So there is the aspect of the mental attitude, that you have to have the right mental attitude so that you're cultivating the right energies. This feeds over into the Buddhist and Hindu and yogic doctrines of, right thinking and right mind and right speech and blah, blah, blah. And there's a Taoist version of that too. But in a very real sense, you must connect the spirit, the shun, the mind, with the mouth. How many of us, most of us, I'd venture to say, just take our food and shove it into our mouths and then run out the door drinking coffee? We have no idea what's going on. We're completely disconnected. There's lots of belly rubbing involved. in in giving up food in a Taoist fashion, meaning you're doing these practices in order to keep qi not only flowing but move it down into the right places. When you first fast, big example, when you first fast, even just for a day, you're coming off a fast, and if you have a rather high running system, then all of a sudden at noon, if you haven't eaten anything, the heart starts going like this, and you get flushed, and you're like, starts to get confused. That's because the body has different rhythms, and the energy, starts to surge at different times of the day, in congruence with the sun and the earth and your sleep patterns and when you got, all this kind of stuff. It all figures together, and what you ate and whether it was stimulating and blah 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 blah. That's why simple is best. That's why if you start to do this kind of stuff, you'll notice those big changes. And you'll notice what a difference it makes to actually connect your mind to your food and to eat consciously. And then you just have a very simple watery porridge. That's kanji. And I do not recommend, eating a bunch of grains, but I do recommend balancing yourself out and balancing out your meals by eating a bunch of functional, balancing foods in between actual meals. This is one way to cleanse while you're still eating regular food. This is what I've been doing, at least for 1 week. I'm going to be doing it like this. I don't know if I'm going to get real crazy about it. I don't want to, I'm just doing it the way I want to do it, because I know that mostly I'm going to still be a regular person. Maybe eventually, I'll give up all the foods. I couldn't see myself doing that. I love to cook, but one way to balance yourself out and to give yourself that. I wanted to talk about this just on a personal level. It's like so many other cultures are taught that you get most of your energy and you balance yourself out and keep yourself going and functional throughout the entire day by mostly getting your energy from grains. I do not believe that that's ultimately healthy. But the healthy part of it, the important part of it, is that you're doing that you're balancing yourself out. You see, like, have you ever known an Asian person who always brings their own rice to, like, every meal? I knew a guy like that. Even if we went out for a hamburger, he would always have a little thing of rice, and he would eat the rice along with his hamburger. And we're all looking at him like, and it doesn't make sense to the Western mind. What makes sense to the Western mind is a complete and balanced meal, which means you gotta have your grains, you gotta have your meats, you gotta have your veggies, you gotta have your fruit. And in a way, that's very Taoist too. But really, in the Western sense, it's come down to this stupid and ridiculous food pyramid, which is blasphemy and lame and terrible, and just forget it. Don't even think about it. It's bunk. It always has been bunk. You can look up the history of it. It's whacked. But the point that I'm trying to make is that other cultures are taught to balance themselves out. Basically, out of necessity. Most cultures, at one time or another on this planet, have gone through periods of extreme famine. The thing that mostly gets people through that is grains. Look at the flood epics and the stories. The reason that Noah, and this is stupid too, the reason that Noah brought all these animals with him, was not because God loves animals. The reason that he brought all of the animals with him was that so people would have stuff to eat afterwards. Because you get butter and milk and cheese from the animals, you get meat from the animals, you can raise them for slaughter, like, you get eggs from the animals, like, that's an immediate thing that happens. Grains or whatever, yeah, you can take grains with you and seeds, but it takes a long time to grow things so that your family is actually eaten again, In the original version of the story, which is like, what's the word? Sumerian? He brought grains with him. All the grains and seeds and fruits and things, and also some animals, I think, too. But every culture has had to go through hard times, and grains can get you there, can get you through it. Because when you do have them, you know, I'm not saying the growing of the grains necessarily, because sometimes that's impossible, but the storing of the grains. And you have the grains, and you can sustain your body on grains by making a very thin gruel or porridge and just eating that all the way through the winter. You know, you're gonna lose all your weight. That's why you eat rich stuff and before that and blah blah blah. But we don't have to do that anymore. And so all of us are like, no, I want the big pile of meat covered in orange slime. You know, I want the meat and the vegetables. That was difficult to come by. Vegetables don't store well, you know? And so we've gotten away from the fact that no, I need a baseline of nutrition, and the meat and the vegetables and the fruits and things, those go on top, and that's extra. And you'll still see that in the eating styles of so many other cultures around the world because they're not as rich and spoiled as Westerners are, right? Most of us look at their meals and we're like, how are you even going to be conscious after eating that? Like, I remember watching this one LGBTQ film, and it was these Filipino guys. I can't remember what the rest of the film was about, except I just remember this one scene. He's like, oh, I'm so happy today. I brought my favorite meal, mango and rice. And I'm just like, what? I didn't hear you. What? Surely you mean mango chicken with rice, or, you know, savory mango beef with rice, or mango rice with something, you know, or that's what you're gonna have for dessert. The mind can't even wrap around the concept, you guys. But no, just simple bowl of rice with some beautiful fresh mango slices. I would eat that with soy sauce, honestly. That would be amazing. But that's what I'm talking about. We don't have that kind of mentality in our culture anymore, that you're supposed to sustain yourself with something. And again, I'm not saying do it with white rice. It's not the healthiest way. Grains are not the healthiest way. Although it might be more healthy now that we have like things like quinoa and stuff like that to get us through. Not actually a grain. Not actually a grain. So maybe that's okay. But you have to do your own experiments. I just wanted to say that, like, when you have a cleansing mixture or a cleansing porridge, I'm doing oats, which I almost don't consider a grain because it's like they do the opposite of what most grains do. They do not cause inflammation, as far as I can tell. They suck things away. They're great fiber. I mean, most grains are great fiber, but you know what I'm saying. 30 minutes I've been talking about this bullshit. Jeez. Okay. So, there are lots of things I also wanted to talk. There are so many methods to do this, you guys, and this book is really great with it. Dietary change, you talked about having to do this away from society. Basically, the point of that is there is chi all around us everywhere. If you eat in public, you're picking that stuff up and you're taking it into your body. It's very difficult to do that in society and avoid regular foods. Course eating, number one. This is a way to eliminate the regular type of eating. Course eating, grains, to terminate cravings and desires. Basically, so true. If you're having like a porridge in between meals, you'll find that you don't even want the meals anymore. And you'll have like absolutely no munchy cravings. It's one thing I really wanted to say. Like, I am the munchiest man. And I'll eat my dates and cashews and chips and Cheetos and whatever is around, you know. I just like always want little amuse-bouche. And if I don't have that, then I get very ornery. If you have that balancing porridge, special mixture, figure out which one is right for you. It could be a porridge of very light, just quinoa water, man. Or it could be the Saint Germain mixture that I'm doing right now, which is oatmeal and lemon juice and a little bit of honey, blah, blah, blah. When you're doing that, you're just like, I don't even think I need dinner. Like, it just eliminates the weird cravings. Great for that. So that's what grains are for. Rough eating, vegetables, to abandon fats. Don't know that. Limiting eating, No food after noon. This isn't all in conjunction. This is like a method, like ways to get there, you know? To eliminate confusion and defilement. Absorbing essences. Talisman and water, or talisman water, and cinnabar efflorescences. To embody flower stems. WTF, man. What are they talking about? This is extremely Taoist. When you are doing magical work in order to balance your body in a magical way, one of the Taoist methods for achieving that is to create a talisman with edible ink on edible rice paper. Then you burn the talisman while doing some devotion or possibly a mantra or just a meditation focusing on the energy of the talisman. Now you've burnt it, and the ash is collected in water and drunk. So that's a way to take magic in a physical way into your body. All you have to do is make sure that that the paper and the ink is non-toxic. Yeah, don't think I have to tell you that, but I probably do. Cinnabar. Obviously, nobody's going to be eating cinnabar. Absorbing sprouts, directional chi, to change into sprouts, light, sun, moon, stars to transform into light. This is something that we all have to do anyway. Rising with the sun, looking in the direction of the sun. You don't even have to see it the way people who are breatharians or light Aryans or whatever. Light Aryans, that doesn't make sense. All Aryans are light, according to me, according to what I know of. Yeah, never mind, except for Bruce Aryans. So, you know, facing the direction and absorbing chi. Me, I turn on the Akadwa when I face the sun in the morning. And I just kind of stand there. Breathe like a single thread of golden silk is going into your... And then you expel whatever turbid or bad or stagnant chi might be there. And you kind of have to make the... This is a real Taoist thing. I'm not making this up, and I'm not just... This is not my own personal stuff. But when you breathe out, and you're going to breathe out the bad stuff, you kind of make a face. And it really comes from a muscular contraction that all goes down, and you have sympathy with it through your esophageal passage and down into your stomach, all the way down to your organs and liver and stuff like that. I'm not kidding. It's the face that you make when you drink too much and you're about to throw up. That's the vowel sound too. I'm not joking. That is the specific vowel sound that Taoists say you must use in order to expel that stuff all the way down to the liver. So, so, and when a Westerner reads this, they probably don't know that it says you expel the turbid chi by using the sound he, and it's he. You might even think it's he, which is terrible. No, it's h. Like shen means spirit, but you pronounce it shun, you know. So h. And so that's the feeling. Like it's the vowel in our word good. H. And so when you do that, you can kind of feel it. And you breathe out, and that allows bad chi to be expelled. So that's one of the techniques that you use when you take food in, and you're doing that. If it's any type of even normal food, you do these breaths in order to bring the good stuff in and combine that with the food that you're eating, and then letting the bad stuff out. When you rise in the morning, you will sit there in your own bed and do certain breaths. You cross and cut off through your mental focus the paths, the yongquan, the middle of the feet. You'll cut off those, and then you'll sit and you'll be doing these breaths. One way, other way to do it, and pretty much achieves the same thing, is to do the I forget what it's called in the Sanskrit terms, but the you know, where you squeeze your butt cheeks together. Basically, you close off that perineal muscle so that energy can't leak out and that you're storing it up and you're doing that, and yeah, you get it. Okay, so there's other things. Sun, moon, stars, all of that. We need to connect to those things in order to continue this anyway. Absorbing primordial chi to merge with heaven and earth. So these are obviously different levels. You're not going to get to these levels without a lot of practice and without trying some of the initiatory or initial processes. So, Taoists gradually modify their food intake in accordance with the major food groups, blah blah blah. First, taking simple grains, harmonized spleen, blah blah blah. Oh, this was really fun. So basically, here we go. Every day at breakfast, eat a little unflavored, watery porridge to balance the spleen chi and provide sufficient fluids to last you through the day. At noon, eat 1 or 2 unflavored slices of bread and maybe some broth that contains onions or scallions. Now, again, onions, garlic, bad. When you're giving up regular food, they become useful. That doesn't mean that suddenly they're completely good for you, but when you have a super ramped up system that has nothing in it, basically anything that you take in is going to be like, it just goes through your system really quickly, and you're going to notice the effects of it immediately. And onions and garlic, they tend to disperse chi, and they tend to bring chi out to the surface. When you're giving up grains, you're giving up regular food, everything becomes pretty tight. It becomes good, and organs start to blossom and there's better circulation or whatever. But over time, energy can become very stagnant when you're not taking in food, because you have nothing to cause it to flow. Like you put food in your stomach, all your energy goes, holy crap, we need to go to the stomach to start digesting this stuff. Well, it rushes down there, and that means chi is moving. However, you want chi to move, you just don't want it to be wasted to breaking things down all the time, having to break things down. And that's where all the problems come anyway, mostly because of what you're breaking down. The food solid being not necessarily the best, or there's no such thing as a perfect food, I don't think. So all of a sudden, very light broths with some onions, and you're not eating like French onion soup, at this point. You're just eating some like very simple broth, maybe with a tiny bit of salt, or special mineral, and some green onions that you've just steeped in there like for a little while, and you sip on this broth, and it goes down, and you can feel it moving on the stomach and stimulating things and moving chi and bringing chi outwards, and it's a good thing. The other thing that becomes okay at this point is wine. It doesn't mean that you're going to drink it and get drunk off of it. I'll get there in a minute. It's pretty fun. The amount of food... Oh, if you are hungry in the evening, take a few unflavored dumplings that you have boiled for 20 or 30 minutes. Again, make sure not to eat to fullness, but 3 to 5 mouthfuls less. It is best to leave the table with the feeling of a slightly empty stomach. That's another thing, is we eat way too much at one time. Usually we eat too fast, and that leads to eating way too much. But at the same time, it's like, just slow down, Unflavored dumplings. This is obviously when we're still in the stage of eating some type of food. The amount of food eaten should be reduced each day while the flow of saliva is supported by sucking on plum or date pits. That's true. If you suck on something, it causes the saliva to flow. That's a way to get things to continue to flow, right? Onions, scallions, and meat, otherwise prohibited, serve to enhance yang energy. Similarly, peppercorns are used. I found this fascinating. I forgot about this one. Each time you eat rice, first swallow 20 or 30 raw peppercorns with some water. Raw. Only then eat the rice. Should you feel pain or fullness after a meal, you can take 10 additional peppercorns. The pepper will move the triple heater activity downward and chase out all sorts of bad chi. I really found that in a lot of my own personal intuited herbal formulas. Often peppercorns come up as an additive to the formula. I'm like, why always with the peppercorns? It's because I'm spiritually linked to these Taoist lineages, I think, and they are obsessed with using peppercorns, because pepper, it's a stimulant, and so it's going to help that yang, vibrant energy, but it also tends to push bad stuff down, which is where you want the bad stuff to go, in general, you know? And so it helps to just remove all of those things. It's like magical. I used to play on a pepper tree when I was young. I think that maybe has something to do with it. I don't know. This is a long video. The initial response of the body to this change in diet is weakening and detoxification. So this is something that everybody has to look out for. When a Taoist adept has cultivated his body and fasted by means of breathing by expelling the old and taking in the new for 10 days, his essence and chi will feel slightly feverish and his complexion will become haggard and yellowish. After 20 days, he will feel dizzy, will be clumsy in his movements, and his joints will ache. His large bowel movements will become somewhat difficult, and his urine will take on a reddish, yellowish color. This is if you've got a lot of detoxification going on, man, I'm sure of it. Sometimes he will have bowel movements that are muddy at first and firm afterwards. After 30 days, his body will be emaciated and thin. He will feel heavy and weary when he walks. Over a period of several months, however, this is the book coming in and no longer a quote, supplemented by herbal formulas, and while undertaking intense breathing and chi guiding practices. That's exactly what I was saying at the beginning of this video. It's like you don't give up solid food unless you know what the heck you're doing, you know? And there's a lot more to it that you can look back on basically like 2,000 years of history that tell you how to do it. And so people who come up with these like new methods of just looking at the sun and drinking sometimes a few sips of water, I'm like, calming down. Undertaking intense breathing and qi guiding practices, adepts can cease eating altogether and will start to become stronger and more cheerful, matching contemporary experiences such as the regimen undergone by Hu Chen, 1945. In the 1990s, Arthur, the text continues, after 40 days, oh, okay, that was in the 90s, alright. After 40 days, one's facial complexion will become cheerful, ruddy, and healthy, that's what that means, and the mind will be at ease. After 50 days, the organs will be harmoniously regulated and the chi will be nurtured within. After 60 days, the body will have recovered its former strength and its functions will be well regulated. After 70 days, his heart will dislike boisterousness and his only aspiration will be to fly up on high. Fascinating. You know, a lot of these things sound so quirky to even me, you know, and yet knowing it myself, obviously I've never gone 60 days doing this. I would love to be able to do that and to experience it, but my God, man, just after doing my own style of cleansing for one day, I wake up and I'm like there's just, you guys know, because usually our diets are so crazy. When you just do one day of fasting, you feel like a freaking god for some reason. Like, it's just, it's there. First, for my brother, just this morning, my actual brother, I posted online, I was like, why did I do a cleanse and then I ate regular food? Now, I just wish I had eaten the cleansing food all day long. Because this morning, I was like, whoa, you know, feel okay now. Everything's balanced out. My brother posts, he's like, yeah, every time I fast, I get a headache, like, to end all headaches that day. And then after that day, I feel like Superman. Then I eat regular food again, and I get a headache again. This is to tell you how the balance is up and down and how your body will regulate itself. But just giving stuff up completely with no course, with no wisdom or knowledge of the actual techniques that one needs to go through, and there's a plethora of them, to do this right, is stupid. It is stupid. It is literally very ignorant, you guys, and you need to stop just thinking, all I have to do is give up and just drink lemon water for the rest of my life and like look at the sun every once in a while and I'll be fine. and then I'm gonna soar up towards the heavens and woo! Like, no, that's not how it works. Anyway, okay, so the last one is after 80 days he will be peacefully content. This is like so much longer than I expected it to be. Oh God! Okay, after 80 days he will be peacefully content and remain in serene solitude. He will believe and understand the teaching, the techniques, and methods. After 90 days his skin will have a smooth luster of glory and elegance. He will clearly hear all sounds. This is really interesting. Like, all this stuff is connected. People don't understand. Like, I start tasting phantom tastes when I fast. I'm like, what? Like, everything just starts to be revivified and heightened in so many amazing ways. Certain foods will make you hear in different ways. This is where all this stuff gets connected, and the Taoists are very good at noticing it. So I just wanted to finish up medical formulas. Texts differ with regard to the importance of supplementary formulas or medicines. The Dai Ching, Xiao Qi Jing is against them. It favors relying entirely on breathing and qi guiding to replace ordinary food. So there are some schools that only want you to suck up qi from the dew and the sun and the planets and blah blah blah, and do the qi storing exercises and the rubbing and the saliva circulations, and you don't just swallow it. You concentrate on the lower dantian when you swallow it, and it becomes this. It's a really cool process. And other methods, other schools say, of course, you take. The opposite position is taken in most medieval texts. So these are later texts. Bao Puzi, Shunang Ban Cao Jing, the Divine Farmer's Materia Medica. I like that they put Latin in there for whatever reason. High quality. So the first one that says don't do it is pretty severe. Worldly people tend to be greedy for pleasure and love profit. They cannot stop their thoughts and widely search through recipe books for formulas to take for grain abstention. When such concoctions first enter the stomach, they do in fact create a feeling of fullness for a period of time. However, once their effect is exhausted, hunger will come back with a vengeance. This creates a vicious cycle without end. The other school says high-quality formulas put the body at ease and extend life so that people can ascend to heaven and become immortals. Able to soar up and down in the air, they have all sorts of spirit minions at their beck and call. Their bodies grow feathers and wings, and they receive their food spiritually by cosmic catering. Ah, yes, please. I want to go to that party. Then proceeds the lists of variety of substances that will make efficacious formulas. Many of the minerals such as cinnabar, gold, silver, jade, mica, pearls, realgar, hematite, quartz, rock crystal, sulfur, and malachite, among vegetal and herbal means. It emphasizes fungi, knotgrass, thistle, asparagus, atractylus, sesame, pine sap, and root. Fabulous. As well as pepper and ginger. A very similar list appears also in the monastic Lao Tzu Shu Fa Xi Jing Jie Jing, which defines formulas as gold and jade, mushrooms and excrescences, yellow essence, which is basically a type of like fungus or stuff that comes off of trees and stuff, Chinese lycium, birthwort, pine, and cypress. The most early document, blah, 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 blah. So these are examples of foods that you can eat for the rest of your life when you've reached not eating grains or bigu. Asparagus root, grown in Shandong and Sichuan, which is tonic, stomachic, and expectorant, inducing sweat. And according to the Bao Puzi, strengthens people so they can walk very fast and very far. Atractylus, grown mainly in blah blah blah, Zhejiang, warming and stomachic, stimulant, tonic, diuretic. Most of these are diuretic and tonic, if you know your herbs. Birthwort, resembles ginger root and cures digestive disorders. China root fungus. This is one I really want to get my hands on. fu ling, or Poria cocos, if you're looking for the Latin name. This mushroom-like growth on tree roots considered a transformed resin, which is peptic, nutrient, diuretic, and quieting. I want it. Chinese lycium, jade bamboo, I'm just going to read them, knotgrass, mallows, pine tree in various forms such as sap, seeds, roots, considered nutritious, life-enhancing, and strengthening. Sesame, thistle, yellow essence, which is also known as Solomon seal and botanically identified a mountain plant that looks like bamboo and is also called hair bamboo. Strong medicinal properties that make it useful as a tonic and prophylactic. Many of these herbs have diuretic and tonifying qualities that make them ideal for removing stale qi and digestive remnants while enhancing positive energies and building strength. Being potent and effective even in small quantities, the Chinese also used them in times of famine when grains, beans, and vegetables were sparse and people had to survive on very little. Oh, this is interesting. In addition, they are key plants gathered and ingested by hominids in prehistoric periods, again showing the Taoist effort to return to a more primordial stage in human living. At the same time, Taoists also use soybeans and grains in their recipes, sprouts, mature legume, blah blah blah, laxative and resolvent, millet. Before ingesting any grains or herbs, adepts cleaned, chopped, pounded, and cooked them, then mixed them in various combinations and formed them into pills or decoctions. Secondary binding ingredients would include alcohol, fermenting agent, yeast, white wax, white honey, flour water, malt sugar, broth, sweet fermented soy paste, as well as animal fats taken from pigs, sheep, and cattle. For example, I think I'm going to end on this because this just like excites the hell out of me. I want to make it. Take 5 pints of China root fungus branches, 7 pounds of oily pine sap, 5 pounds of white wax, 3 pounds of white honey, 2 pounds of Sichuan thyme, and steam them all together as if you were steaming a picul of grain. I have no idea what a picul is, but whatever. When it is well cooked, take it out and form it into pills the size of cypress seeds. The formulas claim to be highly effective. This is now not quoting. All feelings of hunger and thirst evaporate. The skin is firm and glossy. The complexion smooth and soft. White hair turns black. Lost teeth grow back. And unheard of longevity is attained. As Sun Simiao says, as you continue taking these formulas without stopping, eventually your bones and marrow become strong and full, and the 5 grains will be needed less and less, until you can give them up naturally. So that's a little bit on using specific crazy ass formulas in order to, which could all essentially be considered herbal in some way. Even a grain is an herb, you know, in order to get yourself off of regular food. So I'm going to stop it there because obviously this video is too long. I hope I've given you a breakdown or detail about why it's very difficult, and it is a level of mastery and commitment and all of this stuff to give up grains, bigu, living without grains. All of this stuff, it's not easy. It's not as easy as just giving stuff up and trusting the ascended masters. You know, I've had way too many people that just think that they're gonna do this, and then their family, like I had a friend, Juan, if you're watching, like, you know, family freaks out because he's not eating any food, and then, it's like chaos. Like, that's not the kind of reaction you want to happen. You also don't want to die, unless you do, in which case, I'm sorry. Because this life is enjoyable. You haven't even begun to taste the treasures possible when you cultivate the Tao. And if you want to cultivate the Tao like an immortal, then this is definitely something that you need to study and give a lot of thought to, that you need to pay attention to your body, how things make you feel, what things are best for you. Start doing herbology and figure out what plants and herbs really support your body and make you feel balanced and supported all the way through so that you can go on a fast for several days and not have a problem. And also know that cleansing and all of that does not just mean complete, dire, stark fasting for 40 days. There used to be this school of everything resets after 40 days and all you need to drink is water. And so they basically just like lock you in a room and only give you water. It's like, well, yeah, you're going to have some experiences for sure if that's the way you're going to do it. But I don't think that that's the healthy method. That's not good. Anything that you do drastically is going to cause a vacuum and cause you to flipsy-floobs, whatever that word is, flip-flop the other direction and do something crazy, you know? I didn't get to the part on alcohol in which basically you can survive on a clear grain alcohol. It even says this is exceptional. But you still have to do the methods, and you never drink enough to become, it uses the word, maudlin. So basically, you're never gonna be a drunken master. You're gonna be somebody who only survives off of the alcoholic spirit of a certain grain, of a plant, or whatever that, or a fruit, you know, a cup of wine, and you have that once a day, and then you do the breathing so that you expel the bad stuff. It even goes so far as to say if you're able to drink 3 pints of alcohol, well, it doesn't really mention what kind, obviously not pure grain alcohol or something. Pints would be a lot of pure grain alcohol. If you're able to drink 3 pints in an evening with your friends, that if you do the breathing methods, you'll be able to drink 7 and still have a completely clear head. And that if it's good quality grain, or not just grain, if it's good quality spirit, we'll just call it that. So beer would be difficult because it's got all these different grains and things and admixtures. So a very pure quality, high quality spirit, that you could have a cup or 2 of that every day and then do your breathing exercises, not get drunk, and be totally fine. Again, with all of my caveats and stuff, that does not mean that you have call to like try and live on booze now. That's not what it means. It means this is a very specific and very difficult technique to do when you get to the point of not eating grains anymore or not eating solid food, let's say. You have the option of using something like a very high quality wine or spirit in order to give your body the chi flow that it needs in order to continue to be vibrant and healthy and good. And at that point, you're able to expel the bad stuff, if there is any bad stuff, and really use that alcoholic spirit as a magical formula. I could say a lot more about alcohol and magical formulas and natural ferments of stuff like that, and it's all great and wonderful. It's just that our culture has problems with alcohol, and I've had problems with drinking in the past, and so it's like, where do you draw the line? Because I know from my own particular experience, even if I am trying to do something like that, like I've made my own wine, which I have, or my own mead, which I have, or my own beer, which I have, and think of it as a sacred act and a sacred experience, and all this magical potion and formula and blah blah blah, and it's going to be so amazing. I still just want to get drunk off of it, you know? So, I'll leave it with that. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. 60 minutes, you guys. You know what? I should just keep the video going so that it is a full, actual 60 minutes. No, I love you.